Welcome to Echoes and Roots. I'm Sabine, and I connect you to Mother Nature and to the wisdom of the past, to heal and to remember who you are. Hello everybody, thank you for being here. Today I will channel for you directly from the records, the Akashic Records of the Mayan Civilization. I've received many questions from you. It's going to be a really interesting channel if you want to submit questions for my podcast episodes, for the channelings I'm doing on different ancient civilizations and aspects of Mother Nature. Follow me on Instagram because I always ask there. Now, I've recently been to Guatemala and visited many Mayan pyramids there, and I've also, in my previous podcast, I channeled from the Mayan sacred tree, the Seva, and today we're going to go into the Mayans directly. Now, I do expect a lot of veiling in the record, because when I was in Guatemala there was even a lot of veiling, a lot of energetic domes, how I feel them around the pyramids. The history of the Mayans is extremely layered with different episodes, timelines in that history, and we're seeing only a certain part now in the physical, from how the pyramids look right now and how the temples look right now. And there's also very little written documentation, actually. Most, like 98% or something of written documentation about the Mayans was destroyed when the Spaniards arrived. Also, now quickly about the Mayans. So the Mayans, their sites are specific to the Yucatan Peninsula, and then you also have in Mexico itself, in Central America, you have some civilizations that are before and after. So you have the Aztecs, which are generally considered to have come after the Mayans, and they're more around Central Central America, like more Central Mexico. You have some other civilizations including Olmecs, etc. And you also have a very interesting site, which is Teotihuacan. And Teotihuacan is considered to be one of the major metropolis of the ancient world, with thousands and thousands of people living there. Teotihuacan is documented in the Mayan we can't say literature. You find information about the city of Teotihuacan. So Teotihuacan is not on the Yucatan Peninsula, it is close to nowadays Mexico City. But you find information about Teotihuacan in Tikal, and Tikal is a Mayan site in Guatemala. And you also they found in Teotihuacan itself that Mayans have lived there. So Teotihuacan seemed to have been a metropolis of different civilizations at that time, roughly at the same time as the Mayans. They seem to have visited each other. And Teotihuacan is very interesting in a sense that I feel this shows a little bit of even the ancestors of the Mayans and what happened later to that civilization, because Teotihuacan seemed to have been a very peaceful mega city with different cultures living there. There's no military. You also don't have the typical class system architecture that you find in a lot of the Mayan cities, also the Aztecs later. There is no king's palace. They don't seem to have worshipped all these different gods. And very interesting, there is there's a couple of archaeologists that found how you would call them, reliefs of what they call a mother goddess. that supposedly was the main goddess of Teotihuacan, the main deity to be worshipped. So this is a very interesting site. Now, this I feel this is related to the Mayan civilizations and also to the origin of the Mayan civilizations, because what you see nowadays when you travel to Guatemala, to the pyramids, you see evidence of a civilization, or I would say really of the last stages of the Mayan civilization, that was extremely hierarchical, different social classes, power held by a king, and then there are a lot of different gods that were worshipped, a lot of worshipping happening, a lot of Satanistic practices also in the form of blood rituals happening as well. So it's going to be really interesting to go back in the channeling and really trace actually some of the more older practices and energies that are also held at these sites, that speak of a very different civilizations of Mayans, very, very different than what we see nowadays, or not nowadays, or what we can get now from the pyramids. Okay, anything else before I start? You will see that my podcast has been renamed in Echoes and Roots. Now, I told you in my last podcast that I'm bringing back all of my content on the ancient sites, my content on Mother Nature, all back into one. And that one is under the umbrella, under my new brand name, Echoes and Roots, because that really, really resonates with what I'm doing. It resonates with me bringing back ancient knowledge for healing, because I really believe we have to understand our past in order to truly heal and go forward into a different future, and also brings back healing with Mother Nature, because I also believe we are, as humanity, we are so closely connected. We were really designed as the guardians of Mother Earth, of Gaia. And as the guardians of Gaia, we are so connected to her energy, to nature, and that's the kind of knowledge I really want to bring back, where we are actually coming from, and the practices we used to have, and how we used to co-create with Mother Earth in harmony, and how we used to flourish on our planet. Yes, so that's all Echoes and Roots, and I'm rolling it out slowly over my different platforms that I'm having. That's why you see it slowly coming out. Exactly. Now let's go into the channeling. My guidance is to actually open two records, the records of the Mayans and the records of the stingless bee that is home to the Yucatan Peninsula. They have their own incredible stingless bee race, and I think bees are millions of years old. Because I expect a lot of veilings, I had great success. It's a little bit when my work is going to really channel a lot of historic information from Mother Earth herself. And I think this bee civilization held a lot of answers and knowledge. So I'm going to open both of these records. I'm also going to adapt a little bit my prayer, going back to one of my previous prayers that I had. I'm in the process of just trying out using my prayers in different situations, depending on if I feel I'm going to channel very galactic information, or I want to be really grounded. And for this one, I feel I want to be really grounded, because there is automatically going to be a lot of galactics coming forward, because that's also one of the energies I felt quite strong there when visiting. There are a lot of different energies. There are a lot of different energies. You will have still the very heavy energy of the blood rituals and the serpent reptilian gods that were worshipped. You have the energy of a much more advanced galactic civilization there. You have the energy of inner earth there. You have strong Atlantean energies. You also have energies of Lemuria there. So it's a lot. So that's why I'm going to see if I can go through the different layers. Good. Let's get to it. I, Sabine, would like to open the Akashic Records of the Mayan Civilization and the Akashic Records of the Melipone bees of the Yucatan Peninsula in the highest of light and highest of destiny, surrounding those that support us and those that hold the codes and wisdom of all galaxies. I stand in front of you in service, in humbleness, in gratitude, serving Source, serving the light, speaking with truth, speaking from the light, speaking in reverence to Source. I transmute any field distortion, alien machinery, mind programs to distort this information. I surround myself and this field with God's eternal light, connecting to Source and only Source. And so it is. The Akashic Records of the Mayan Civilization, as well as the Akashic Records of the Melipone bee of the Yucatan Peninsula, are now open. Okay, I see major Mayan land guardians here. I've seen them also there on site. And just walking through here, it's almost like I'm walking through the jungle. It's very veiled. May I okay, I have some birds here to help me. May I decloak and deveil. Okay. I'm seeing a civilization living. It's in the it seems to be in the jungle. Okay. So this is maybe one of the questions. The first question was, where are they now? And the answer to this is, they've never been gone. So what you see here, you have within our reality, you have human descendants of the Mayans, of that initial civilization. And but you also have a civilization that lives still there in that area. But they are entirely non-physical. And there is multiple layers here because there's also a layer of inner earth. Okay, so there was a split that happened in the Mayan civilization this is long time ago. This is long time, because this is now, I'm almost seeing like this is more going back Lemurian times when all the continents were together. And this was obviously, Lemuria was a global civilization. It's a different, you have to understand, Lemuria is fifth dimensional earth. It's a different layer of earth. And it's a different layer than we are on now, right now. But we have many connections from our now third dimensional layer to ancient Lemuria. So at that time, I am now in the Lemurian timeline here. It's connected to this specific part of the land because it's the land also that holds the memories. And it's almost like you need to see these layers of earth as if they are stacked on top of each other. So you have a third dimension maybe here, then you have the fifth, which is Lemuria, and then there's even an older layer, 7 dimension earth that is even higher. But I cannot see this right now here. Now, in the 5th dimension, okay, this is beautiful. So there is as you see, this jungle as well is very vibrant. A lot of vegetation, beautiful waters. So the Cenotes tapping into this, And the cenotes, there's also a question. The cenotes, yes, there are portals. There's also a question, are the cenotes portals? Yes, they are. Okay, and there's a connection here both to this layer, to the fifth dimensional Lemurian layer, and then to the layer that there's also a layer here in inner earth, in the cenotes as well. Because inner earth is not fifth dimensional earth. Inner earth is okay, let me see this. This is a entire different part. But okay, so the Mayan civilization, the physical, like, yeah, because Lemuria, we were still physical. But what happened in a way is part of it stayed and continued on which we have now, still the descendants of the Mayans. Part of them went into inner earth. Yes, they did go into inner earth, and part of them almost went up into what I'm saying now, this fifth dimensional Lemuria layer, which is both the past and the future. So they actually kind of went into the future of humanity, because we are going there again. We're going back to these memories that we're holding of Lemuria, the way we lived. This is also where we're going back to eventually over a long time. So they actually kind of went, my God, how do I even understand this? Okay. I wish you could see what I see. It's like, but it's like you have in the middle, you have this piece of land, and you have these civilizations there, and then there were a lot of catalysms that happened on Earth, and land pieces were torn apart, and through the catalysm also a lot of more duality came in, and then a lot of more suffering and wars and things like that. And throughout this time, slowly the civilization, so the Mayans do definitely go back to our Lemurian ancestors. There is a part that goes back to the Lemurian ancestors, but throughout this time, some of them literally, they said, okay, we are kind of through this intense duality that's coming in, through this destruction that's coming in, through the breaking up of different land masses, we are going into the future. Part of them went into Earth and part of them stayed. Okay, so the cenotes, going back to the cenotes, I'm just seeing the cenotes. There was also, though, there was damage done on the cenotes. So later, this is later, when there was a takeover. This is really important to understand. There was a takeover of that civilization, and this is when all these gods come in that we now know of. They initially did not have these gods. Wait, I want to check into this, because I'm just seeing the sun. The initial Mayan civilization was just okay, this is getting really complicated now. Okay, the initial Mayan civilization was really just aligned to the sun. And like the solar god, almost like a solar goddess, as the one, not even to worship, but just as the one to recognize. And then all these gods that we know now, they came in later. Now there is also this strong connection to Venice, and they're saying there's either a part of the Mayans that went to Venice, I'm just asking if they came from Venice or if they went to Venice. But they have a connection. They have an ancestral connection to civilizations on Venus. Here, part of the Mayans. And that's why they track Venus so much. So, okay. Now the cenotes. Let's go back to the cenotes. Very pure waters with portals. Yes, pure waters going back also to the Lemurian, the pure sacred waters we had. Going also into inner earth. Now, they were misused though, the cenotes. Because I also see in them, I see like bones in them and blood in them. Like, they're almost like, you know how when you pollute something, you want to pollute something? It's the same as they're saying these genocides, these genocides on the initial like human tribes. This is very much also the story of the Mayans. There was a genocide on their initial cultures and their initial holy and sacred places. And so this also happened with the cenotes later. That some of them, their pureness was somehow polluted through, I don't know if it's happening because of the sacrifices being done and the bones being discharged there of the people that were sacrificed. I'm not entirely sure, but there is, I just feel in some of the waters there's heaviness. So the water clearing is very important because these waters, the initial, like I see the spring of the waters is very pure energy, very pure energy. There is this beautiful, it's almost like they're all having these crystals. Okay, yes, there is a lot of important crystals on the Yucatan Peninsula. And that is what also people have been after. They have been after these pure crystals because I can see them like they are a white with green and blue, absolutely incredibly beautiful crystals. And there was mining going on in places to find them. They are connected to the purity of water. So the crystals initially, when this Mayan civilization, as I said, was really highly evolved, imagine them as Lemurians in that timeline. The crystals literally just anchored this beautiful frequency of balance and harmony and purity and healing as well. Very healing frequency. And that one spread through the lakes, through the cenotes. So the cenotes, again, very sacred places, but they do need water clearing and healing. Like there is almost, I feel in the bones that were put in there is trauma held in the bones and also soul fragments held in the bones. So if you are drawn actually to the cenotes, it might also be a case of you retrieving soul fragments from a previous life where you were sacrificed, because that memory is also held in the bones. It's like almost like you entrap some soul into the bone, if that makes any sense. So that is there. So that almost needs releasing. These soul parts, these traumas need releasing, and the water needs clearing. So I feel there's many guardians who are going to be involved in that work. The same is for the soil, the land needs clearing. Okay, let's go actually into the questions for inner earth theory. So yes, there was definitely communication with inner earth as well. Again, inner earth vibrates quite high, but there's also, it's so multi-layered here. We have this quite high vibration of inner earth, benevolent beings that were in communication with the Mayans. I feel also part of the Mayans, as I said, they went to inner earth and part went to our future, which is again like almost similar to Lemurian timelines, because that's also what they remembered from the past, who they were. what their ancestors are, right? So they went back to the future, fifth dimensional Earth. Not back, no. They go forward to the future. Go back to the future. Part of them went to inner Earth, though. There is though also, what I'm also seeing, there are giants. There was also a time here. This is very old. Like what we are being told about the Mayans only being like a couple of thousand years old, that is not true. There is a very old history here of that specific part of the land, and the civilizations, almost what we now call the Mayans, are descendants, right, of the initial civilizations that lived there, and there's memories in them. But it's a very, very old civilization, has so many ties to the history of us, of humanity. Very incredible. So there is also a story here about giants, and it's almost like there are multiple layers of, and these giants are not necessarily benevolent. So there is also a story here that I do think they had Nephilim there at some point as well. And I don't feel these giants benevolent. So there are benevolent beings from inner Earth that I feel, but they are, again, they're almost like plasma beings. There are the Nephilim, actually, it's not their fault that they're not benevolent. But there are giants who are basically under control of someone's agenda. Let's say it that way. They are not bad by nature. They are just under the control of someone's agenda. So there are these giants there as well. And the giants also come from underground. So the underground is very layered in a sense that, okay, there are tunnels under the pyramids. The pyramids, okay, have many, many levels as well, many layers, how they used to look, how they're looking now. They were rebuilt. That's what I'm seeing. It's almost like if you dig up the earth there, the soil, you're finding entire cities underneath. Like there's somehow a massive layer underneath what we are seeing. Is this ever there? Civilizations also underneath what we are seeing. And then there is this ethereal overlay, right, where they are still here in the future, still on the same land in a way. Okay, but we're going into the earth now. So there's these layers of these physical tunnels, and in the more physical layers we have the giants. They are more physical. They were very physical. And then we have the inner earth, which is more non-physical. They are inner earth beings, are much more plasma. And more generally, I feel them quite benevolent, but a lot of, so again, there's layers to what is under the ground. The first layer you might find is, there's also all kind of weird galactic beings there. So if we were to go now into the tunnels under the pyramids, into the soil itself, we have all kind of energies there. So we have some giants that remaining. A lot of them were died. A lot of them died after the last great flood. Then we have some reptilians I can see around there. There is trapped souls in the soil. A lot of trapped souls there. That is, I think, from the blood sacrifice. And there's something about the bones. There is something about, they have done something to the bones in the time where there were blood sacrifices. That is trapping souls, aspects of souls, to the physical and not allowing them. It is fragmenting souls. So there is something around bones here. They haven't, I don't know. If they were to dig, I'm sure they would find more bones. So there is dark energy around these bones. We have reptilians running around here. What else do we have? We have all kind of galactic beings here. This is all underground now. The non-malevolent galactic beings. We have what are they called? These aliens, they're again service to self, non-benevolent. Something Zeta. They're running around here. Okay, this is just like the underground layer. And then the deeper layers, we have entrances to inner earth, but a lot is sealed off. I feel sealed off also in terms of from inner earth itself. It's almost like, because there's so much tumult, so many wars still, there's so much, still so much heaviness, dark energies in the soil also, in the land here, that inner earth is kind of, they're a little bit, do we want to communicate? Do we want to communicate with what is happening on other earth? Do we want to be there? Are we going to help or not? I feel this a little bit like, okay, because the Mayans that went to inner earth, I almost feel them like they're still working with the nature. They're working through, they're protecting the crystals. Strongly, they're working with the spirits of the nature to protect the crystals, or protect some knowledge as well that they left. They left a lot of knowledge. There's a lot of technology actually here. This is what we're seeing. We're seeing stones, we're seeing, but it's a lot, incredible amount of technology actually, an incredible amount of information stored in the stones. So almost like, imagine holographic images coming out of the stones. They left a lot of information here about humanity, about our true history, about what happened to them, where they went, how they went also, how they went into the future, and how they went into inner earth. So they're protecting, the ones in inner earth protecting that a lot. Yes, and they're working with the land itself to for land healing, I feel. But I feel they do not want to have too much contact with humanity, because there is still too many non-benevolent beings there, non-benevolent energies, as I just said, right? There's reptilians around there. There's these non-benevolent aliens that are around there. There are some giants, not too many. I don't see too many left. Potentially Nephilim. So again, non-benevolent. Yeah, so they are holding a little bit back. Okay, the question was also, I'm sorry, I'm going like a little, I feel I'm going, this is a very interesting record, going all over the place here. What was the relationship like when the Mayans lived there with inner earth? Okay, first thing I got was like communication exchange, benevolent. When I'm talking now about the older civilizations of earth. Older civilizations of the Mayans. When the Mayans were under, I want to go forward, under the control of the Anunnaki, they're saying. There was, so the time we are seeing, what we most have evidence of the Mayans is they were under the control of the Anunnaki and reptilians, both of them. At that time, there was a lot that actually, it's interesting. There were resources. There were resources that the Anunnaki and the reptilians wanted from the land, and also from access to inner earth. So then inner earth almost like tried to shut off the access to inner earth, because they were really looking for the crystals. They were looking for other resources. There's something very important about the land itself in terms of, I don't know, there's something very important in the land being held, and I think this is other than just the crystals. They're saying something about gold, so they were definitely after the Anunnaki, reptilians were after the resources. So then the access to inner earth was almost was shut down, because what also happened, this started in Atlantis, is that these darker energies almost got entrapped on earth in a layer that now they sometimes describe as the underworld. They describe this as the hell. This is not inner earth. This has nothing to do with it. This is like it's a layer within the fabric of the dimensions of Earth. We could also maybe describe it as a lower astral plane, but it's also a layer that's connected to the soul. That's why they're always saying it's like it's the underground. It's like we are going into the underworlds. It's these kind of layers, and a lot of dark energies got trapped there. A lot of souls got trapped there. So this is massive work for the land to do. It needs to be released because it's tied actually to the physical land. As I said, there is something about that with the sacrifices they have done with the bones of people, where they tied literally soul fragments and turned them almost into darker energies, also into ghosts. They tied them to the physical, to the soil as well, and to the soil. So there is this aspect of I don't know, it's almost like a massive amount of land clearing. The same with the water, like the once beautiful and there is still a lot of this beautiful frequency in the cenotes. It's just you have to connect to this frequency. It's almost like you need to amplify this frequency in the cenotes, this initial beautiful frequencies, and really working with connecting to those crystals, because they hold these beautiful, I just hear their songs, I hear the frequency, they holding this, really having this flow again through the cenotes. And a similar thing has to happen, as I said, with the land. So inner earth access was at some point almost like inner earth itself didn't want it anymore to have any communication there. And this was after. So what happened when the Mayan civilization was taken over by Anunnaki reptilian control is that this is when the split happened, that some of the Mayans went up to, as I said, to the future, to fifth dimensional Earth, almost like back into kind of Lemurian states. Some of them went into inner Earth and some of them stayed. And they are the ones that basically then lived as civilization that was controlled. But it was also the ones that stayed. It was also, it's a soul contract. It's a soul contract also because the Mayans are, let me just tune into this. If they are fully actually of human descent, it's interesting. I need to maybe ask this question. Do the Mayans belong to the initial tribes of humanity? Okay, the first answer I got was yes, they do. But there is an element, as I said, there is some element with the Venusians here. So there is some element with some sort of galactic, maybe an intermixing with the DNA, but in a good way, from the initial Mayans. So there is some, I don't know, I feel some sort of other also galactic energy in them. Okay, so anyway, but they are, in either way, they're going along our trajectory of development on Earth. So part of them stayed, right, and played out this extreme duality, because that is also a development we just did as humanity. You know, we had obviously as a human race, we have soul contracts with the Anunnaki, we have soul contracts with the reptilians, we have soul contracts with so many other, with also the fallen. That is actually important here. There are some connections also here to the fallen Pleiadians. So the fallen Pleiadians, together with the reptilians, are involved in all the child abuse on our planet, child trafficking. Now, we have obviously contracts with them because this is just almost on a larger scale, you know, in the universe. It's this kind of separation from source consciousness that we all wanted to experience and was going to play out on our planet. So part of the Mayan staying basically is also because that was simply contacted, that part of them went through this experience, because then also the healing, because now we are all reclaiming, all of us, this is including like the, you know, the reptilians, the Anunnaki, the all the other aliens they work with, including everyone else, the fallen, the Nephilim as well, they're reclaiming themselves, like the fallen Pleiadians, they're reclaiming themselves, they're all coming back, they're all basically now in this trajectory to sort of ascend again together, and almost to heal. It's a big healing work to come back to source, to come back into this unity consciousness, and it's very healing for all of the races together. That's why there's also not like, it isn't really about who is the victim here and who is the victimizer, like who, it's just like they all played this out in a game, and they played this also out for us to now almost like have this ability to really heal. It's like what we're going to go into now, the future of humanity, is in some ways more evolved than, even though in the past we lived as a highly evolved civilization, we lived in co-creation with Mother Earth, we know, if you have memories of Lemuria, we lived in this beautiful state, you know, of peace and balance and unity with the heogamic partners, but we kind of lived, we weren't really, like, in some ways I almost feel like we were a little bit naive, like we weren't fully rounded in the experience on this, in the universe, and now we really truly deeply experienced, so the dark, very dark aeons, very, very dark aeons, we experienced like what true separation from source is like, and what this feels like, and what kind of suffering this brings, and even to the soul, the intense suffering to the soul if you've lived in separation from source. And now when we're going to come back, we're going to be like so much more, I feel we're going to be like much more wise in a way, you know, fully rounded. And this is true for all of the other civilizations that are evolving with us, like the Anunnaki is evolving with us, the Dracos evolve with us right now. And there is a lot of healing we are learning in this evolutionary process. Even now we have so much disclosure happening. And this closure can feel very traumatizing, but it's almost like these traumas have to heal, like the trauma of being ritually sacrificed or having done sacrifices, you know, that has to heal, you know, that it needs to understand what's the fabric of life. If we do this, we harm the fabric of life. But it's almost like as humanity, we had to learn this, like, okay, we only knew in the past, oh, this is the fabric of life, this is great, but we didn't quite know how to truly harm it. So now we learned how to harm it, and we learned it together with these other civilizations that have a deep, deep contracts with us. Also the Syrians, like so many of these civilizations have such deep contracts with us at this current time. And it's, I feel with the Mayan civilization, there is such an intense wisdom in their history, and an intense amount of also healing with the land, you know, it's with everything. It's very beautiful. It's actually like, even though this record feels a bit all over the place, it's a very beautiful record, because I can, even though I feel also in here the reptilians, I feel the Anunnaki, I feel all of these other, I almost feel like this overall energy of reclamation and freedom, you know, of, you know, okay, we are now learning, we are going to slowly learn what it is again to be truly connected to source, and what this feels like, because it's an incredible feeling to feel oneness with source. So we can learn so much from the Mayan history, and especially also from the ones who stayed and then underwent this period of being basically kind of taken over, controlled. Atlantis now. We haven't really, because a lot of this, actually what I'm telling you now, this separation where the Mayans went either up to the future. Why am I saying back to the future? Maybe because time is, you know, not linear in a sense, but it went sort of back to fifth dimensional Earth. Some went inner Earth, some stayed. This is happening during Atlantis. Because in Atlantis, the incredible duality came in Atlantis. It happened that we had this almost like an infiltration of the Anunnaki, this is like roughly like something like 20 something thousand years ago, a little bit more. For the Mayan history, though, the ones that we really see with the intense blood sacrifices, that's much more recent. I feel they still lived for a long time on this part of the land, you know. They still lived, I need to tune into this actually. Yeah, they still like lived almost like a golden age kind of civilization, and then it degraded. Some of them left, some stayed. So it almost feels like, this is interesting. So it almost feels like there's been this period, and this is sort of, maybe this is after Atlantis, I don't know, after the last great flood. I'm not entirely sure, but there seems to be this period where there was this highly evolved civilization that lived pretty much in prosperity and in unity, you know, and then there seems to have been, maybe that was with the cataclysms and the flood, some sort of wipe out, and then some stayed, and these ones, they did remember some of their ancestors, but they had lost a lot of knowledge. And then in fact these Anunnaki reptilian beings came, as they said, because they did also come from Atlantis. They were already there during Atlantis. So they did come, and then they did give them knowledge again, right? They did present themselves as these gods that can teach them again how to grow crops and things. But I do believe they just reused some of the older pyramidal structures in a way, and then they introduced a very hierarchical class society that involved a lot of worshipping and a lot of sacrifices. That's how it kind of feels like, as if there was almost a break in the timeline of the Mayan civilization, where for some time a lot of them almost got, maybe this was because of the cataclysm, because of the last great floods, a lot of them got wiped out by this great change on earth. And then the ones that survived had lost a lot of knowledge, and then these gods, these, you know, semi-gods figures came in to present themselves as gods and to teach them some things. But they taught them again some stuff about civilization, but it was always in a matter of, we control you, you know. You work under us, you don't hold the knowledge, you don't have the knowledge. But they still have, I feel they still had a lot of memory of their ancient Mayan ancestors, and kept some of their own practices as well of their ancient Mayan ancestors that were incredibly highly evolved and that could go up to the future. Now there was a question, or there's this question, if Atlantis and Lemuria coexisted. In my understanding, not. In my understanding, Lemuria is a different layer. It's a fifth dimensional layer. And Atlantis is, because there was so much duality coming in Atlantis, and so much service to self and worshipping, literally like satanistic practices coming in, that harm Mother Earth, that is much more tied to our third, fourth dimensional layer. How did they ascend? Because some of them ascended. How did they do it? All I'm getting is intense light body cultivation. So we have gone, there's been a lot of deactivation of our DNA that happened throughout history. So you need to remember, we all carry our initial 12-strand DNA, the template. We carry the template for it. It's just deactivated. And this initial template allows us to become much more plasma in a way to ascend truly to different time lines on around Earth, to different dimensional layers. This template also allows us to astral, or not just astral, but to really travel between the dimensions. And so they basically just kept these practices, and they cultivated themselves so much that they reactivated the parts of their DNA that allowed them. And they did it as a group. That's what I'm seeing. And yeah, there is still Venus is coming back, but I cannot fully understand the connection yet of Venus. If part of them also went to Venus or something, but there is something here. And they did communicate for some time with the ones that stayed, because as I said, some went inner Earth, some stayed, some went up. So they did communicate for a time with the ones that stayed, but that got more and more difficult as the land got more and more, sort of had more and more an overlay of darker energies. And people got more and more disconnected from their own ability to communicate to the gods. So, not to the gods, but, well, really to their ancestors. But, you know, the Mayans always say that the connection to their ancestors is so important. And that is literally them speaking to their ancestors who are in a different dimension now. Yeah, and they have truly our solar light body, those ancestors. They have it activated fully. Very beautiful. And I feel if you're deeply connected to the crown there, when you're there, you need to really go, what I experience, you need to go through the different layers there. So when you come to the sides, you'll find the energies all over the place if you are sensitive. And so you will have to work through the energy that is really heavy. So all these nefarious energies and nefarious beings and the things of the blood sacrifice. And then you go deeper, and then you really connect to this pure energy of them as Lemurians. And then you can connect to them in their ascended form. So it's almost like... I feel this is also, I had a question about the 9 layers of the underworld. This is also almost a teaching about these layers of the underworld. Like going through the layers, you know, in that first layer, as I said, is also the soil. Somehow there's a lot of darker energies, not deities, darker energies trapped into the soil. So this is the first part of the underworld, where there's even the story around the Mayans that people go through when they die, and they go in these layers of the underworld. They go through all these challenges. So I feel they're describing with these lower astral beings that are somehow tied to the soil. But then you're coming deeper and deeper, and then you're coming more. It's almost like the deeper you go, the more you ascend as well. So it's very interesting. It's like an ascension going 2 ways. You know, like the sacred tree, the Seva tree. They're saying like the tree goes down and it goes up. It bridges heaven and earth, underworld and heaven. But it's almost like the deeper you go, it's also like the human. I think they're teaching us a lot about healing, actually. The original Mayans, like the deeper you go into your inner world, right? Because ascension, actually, quintessentially, ascension is about inner work. It's nothing to do with any other fluff. It's about inner work. So the deeper you get to know yourself, and the deeper you get to know your subconscious and your inner demons, because that's also what the Mayan is. I almost feel they played out this history from coming from this highly evolved civilization to then almost being like controlled. They were controlled by demonic forces, right? If you look at the reptilians, kind of demonic forces, you know, with all the harmful practices, you know, the blood sacrifices and all of this. And then what did I want to say? It's almost like it symbolizes the journey of like the inner work of the soul of the human. It's like, okay, if I go and do inner work, the first, of course, I come also across my inner demons, right? The inner demons, these demons we are saying on the outside, whatever we are calling them, like the reptilians and Anunnaki, they're also within us. They have within us too the same forces. So the more we go deeper and the more we understand ourselves and the more we work with these forces and the more we integrate them and understand that they are the greatest teachers, the more we ascend. And I really feel this is what the Mayans are teaching us, incredible civilization, that through this duality and through like really facing these darker forces within ourselves first and foremost, they truly then ascended and they cleared themselves of that. Almost it's like a clearing of it. As I said, as now the water needs clearing, the soil needs clearing. It's like also us, right? When you are shedding these internal layers, when you're facing your own inner demons, you're shedding layers of yourself. You are doing also clearing work. And then you're coming to the purity of your soul. And the purity of soul is your soul, everyone's soul. Everyone's soul, no matter what civilization they're on, no matter how, if they're in service to self or in service to others, the soul of everyone is the pure Christ light. It is just that, there's so many layers on top that we don't see that pure Christ light. And that's the separation from source. So when you're shedding all of these layers, all your inner demons, you're coming to the pure Christ light. And that is the realization they had, and that's how they ascended. That's the answer that I'm getting from the records. Okay, 2 more questions. Their relationship to jade. Protective, they're saying jade is protective. It's really interesting. Jade could protect them from the demonic forces. So this came later. Again, initially they had these, when they were these really highly evolved civilization living in balance, like think of back of Lemuria. Early Atlantis, they had these massive crystals. They are in the land, that they are guardian almost, because as I said, humanity is guardians of Earth, so we are guardians of her incredible crystals that protect her own frequency, frequency of fertility, etc., of harmony, of balance. And then the jade one came later. This came during the later times of Atlantis, when there was all this duality coming in, and they had started to have these satanistic practices that brought in a lot of demons into the land and opened portals to demonic forces. This is, I feel the jade was almost like used by them to protect themselves from the demons. Yeah, that's what I'm getting on jade. That it's the obsession of jade came really during the times that we see now, the Mayans that we see now that are were were involved either as victim or doing these sacrifices and having all these demonic. There was a lot of demonic entities out of a sudden coming in. It's almost like the land was so initially so pure. And then it became almost like a hub for a lot of demonic forces. I almost see it like when they were taken over by these reptilians, Anunnakis. It's almost like they're becoming like the portals. They're becoming these hub for dark demons to come out. And this is also what is healing now, because even these darker energies, they want to come back to the light, right? They want to come back to source. So it's to really release them and to allow them to be sent back to the light is quite important, and to restore the land to its initial frequency. Now, one more question. That's the that's on one of the deities, Kukulkan. Okay, I want to tune back in. Just feeling this beautiful. That's what I wanted to say. Also, there are these beautiful, extremely large Mayan land guardians. So this is something they left. The initial Mayan civilization that then left, right, that ascended and descended into inner earth. And yeah, I really feel some went to Venus, I don't know. Yeah, I could make a bad joke about this now. Had a love affair with some Venusians. I don't know, it's a joke. But no, wait, they left these incredible large Mayan guardians, and they have nothing to do with the giants that I just said. No, there are these ethereal guardians, and they're protecting the knowledge. As I said, there is so much technology there in the stones. If I said again, if they were to dig more, they're gonna find like structures and all kind of things hidden now by the jungle, which is also good that it's covered by jungle now. But there is just a lot of very ancient technology that is coded in important, really important information for humanity. So, and that is guarded by these massive Mayan. These massive Mayan. The word that comes up is warriors, but they're not really warriors because they were a peaceful civilization initially. So, but they're just very strong. They have very strong spirits. And some of the ancestors, that's what I'm saying, also some stayed right in the physical third-dimensional realm, and they also hold the Mayans that we find now, the ancestors. They hold these strong. Some of them hold this in their light body. They hold this strong Mayan protector, and it's incredible. It's really incredible to have. It's beautiful. They are very connected again to the land spirits, and that's the first thing I saw when I was asking about Kukulkan, but that's not him. So okay, let's go back in. Okay, he's a reptilian. I see him as a walking crocodile. Why does he have feathers? He likes to have he's quite intelligent actually, really intelligent reptilian. He likes to have these feathers. This just stands for a little bit of, I don't know, like to make a show. Likes to make a show. But he's intelligent, very intelligent. I don't feel him actually all like I don't feel him all evil. It's very interesting. And this is similar to with some of the Anunnaki energies. He looks very reptilian. He feels, it's interesting, he could be a hybrid because he looks reptilian, but he feels a little bit Anunnaki. And it isn't black and white with them. That's the thing. It is a very gray area because he did come. I really feel that when he initially came, he did also teach a lot to the civilization, and I almost feel like, so he did come with a lot of knowledge to teach them, because I feel this was really after the flood, when a lot of civilization was wiped out, a lot of knowledge was lost, and they were to restart civilization, and they wanted to gain control over. So the pyramids were already been there previously. The pyramids have been there before the last great flood, and they wanted to gain control over the portals and stargates there. So it almost feels though he's influenced by a darker energy behind him. I cannot quite see who that is, but he doesn't feel like he initially came with an agenda. So he wanted to gain access to the land. They were looking for resources. They were looking for the crystals. They wanted to gain access to the pyramid technology, the Stargate technology. There is something there where you can charge up starships. Like there's technology there that was initially already there, because initially there used to be a hub there. That was before the last great flood. This was during the Atlantean times. There was like an international, is it like an international airport, for starships? And there was technology there to charge starships. That is there. To basically use the technology that's produced in the pyramids to basically create charging stations for spaceships. That's what I'm seeing in the records. So they wanted to gain, to just basically the civilization that was left after the flood, they didn't remember much. They didn't know much. There was a massive wipe out of history happened, even though they're descendants of this really advanced Mayan civilization that lived there pre-flood. There was a massive, imagine it like the flood came also with a wipe out of memory, like literally brain memory, like a total wipe out and disconnection to the Akashic Records. Also, they totally disconnected us to the Akashic Records. They totally disconnected us to remembering who we are as humanity, how we used to live, to memories of Atlantis. It was a total wipe out happening. A total plague out, they're saying. So the civilization that, even though they're descendants of the Mayans, and they had some of the books they didn't understand. They looked at the books, they looked at all this incredible knowledge that their ancestors left for them, didn't understand it. They did not understand it anymore. And because there was also a massive, again, a deactivation of the DNA coming, the consciousness level fell. Literally, the consciousness level fell massively with the last great flood, especially. There were multiple cataclysms in Atlantis, but with the last one, it was a massive, it's literally, I'm seeing just this plague out happening on Earth. It's like you're disconnected. They're disconnected from any kind of galactic communication with benevolent civilizations, a total disconnection. Because before, actually, with the pyramids there before in the Yucatan Peninsula, there was like an international galactic communication, spaceships, things happening there. And not just spaceships, but also just visitors who don't need to visit in spaceships. Quite an exchange happening there. And that all got totally shut down because Earth went into really dark ages, and not much communication with the outside world. And other than the rulers at that time, and the rulers at that time were not humans. So after the last great flood. Now, so okay, let's come back to Kukulkan. So they knew this technology was there. The remaining civilization didn't understand what to do with any of this technology because they didn't remember. Because he's a different race, right? He was not they were not survivors of the last great flood. They somehow saved themselves from the flood. They knew about this. So he came there with an agenda to take over some of that technology that's there. But he also has parts of him that initially, I feel really initially wanted to do good for the people. Like, yes, he came with an agenda. He want, like, and he is part of a larger organization sort of thing. He's part of a hierarchy. Wait, I need to. So he came with an agenda, but he didn't treat the people bad initially, but he was then badly influenced, I feel, Because initially I feel, yes, they established pretty much a hierarchy, they wanted to be worshipped, but there wasn't like the whole sacrifice thing and all these portals to opening to demons. That came in slowly and slowly with time. And I feel he was also influenced by other darker entities. Like, I almost feel he could be a hybrid, like kind of, as I said, kind of a reptilian Anunnaki hybrid or something like that. But there are groups, I just see energies behind him that were influencing him that are much darker. And that had a much darker agenda than him. So, yeah. He... I feel he's in a gray area, I would say, in the sense that he wanted to help. Like, there was an aspect of him wanting to help humanity. And obviously he was also playing, in the bigger picture, a contractual role for humanity to experience certain things. But they left that area too. Like, he left, they ruled there for a couple of thousands of years, they're saying. A couple of thousands of years they ruled there. And initially, initially there wasn't so much warfare and there wasn't so many sacrifices, but it increased over time. It got like almost like, that is also the thing, like darkness increased over time. And there were people with, more darker agendas behind him. There was someone influencing him. And I cannot quite see who that is, the figure is. And they left the area. They abandoned the pyramids. There was some sort of intervention that happened for them to abandon this area. I don't even feel his energy present on Earth now. It's very interesting. Like, there was some sort of intervention happened that they abandoned this entire area at some point with their rulership. He wasn't ruling there alone. That's also another thing. He wasn't the only one that disguised himself there as semi-god. He did get more corrupted over time. He did get a little bit more like, almost like narcissistic over time. But I don't know, it's either veiled, but I cannot see more on him. Yeah, it's 1:30. This podcast. Okay, let me close the records. With gratitude. Service. Akashic Records are now closed. Akashic Records are now closed. Akashic Records are now closed. Yeah, there was all kind of stuff coming through. I feel it was a bit all over the place. That's how this record felt a little bit. Like, there was so much. So, as I said, so many layers to this. A lot also that has to, I feel, it's going to take us a long time to fully understand the history of the Mayans, I think. And also the history of the origins of all of these gods. I didn't ask about the others because they had literally hundreds of gods. but some I feel are almost like really just representations of nature, and some were true deities that were like they represented themselves like true figures. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's all I have to say. It's, even for me, it's like, oh my god. It's very interesting civilization. I haven't had quite a record like this, I feel. With so much stuff about them. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much for listening, for still being here. I think this has to just settle in, this record, and or these two records. And yeah, I see you in I see you in 2 weeks. Yeah, let me know what you think about this. Everything that came forward, you can just, I think you can comment here on my podcast platform, or you just comment on my social medias. Send me a DM there, just about everything that came forward, because it's a very ancient civilization, very ancient. Yeah, incredible wisdom holders. Okay, I'm wishing you a lovely 2 weeks. I'm back with the normal schedule, 2 weeks, because I'm not splitting up my content in all kind of places now. It's just gonna stay here. Okay, thanks so much. Wishing you a lovely 2 weeks. Bye bye. For more wisdom from the Akashic Records and my travels to sacred sites, follow me on Instagram and check out my nature and history inspired healing courses on my website echoesandroots.com.